John DeSouza spent 25 years as a special agent with the FBI, where he specialized in counter-terrorism and paranormal cases. He's written a number of books, one of which is called The Extra Dimensionals, and he's made a number of startling predictions in his book, which seem to be coming true with real-life events that are occurring today. And probably the most significant is his prediction that we are going to be facing a false flag alien event involving motherships hovering over major cities in the United States and around the world.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Welcome, John, to Exopolitics Today.
Great, Michael. Thank you so much for having me here. I am so excited to be on your show. I have been on Exopolitics before, but this is a very special time to actually be on here with you and your particular audience, who are just brilliant, and they're a little more scientifically minded than the general audiences that I've come across. So that's really exciting for me too. So thank you so much for having me here.
Well, you're welcome, John. It's great to have you back. And I know you've been doing quite a lot of research on a lot of these anomalous phenomena during your FBI career and in the writing of your books. And I guess, one question just for my audience, how much of the actual case material that you've encountered goes into the books and into the kind of predictions in your books?
It's funny. That's an excellent question. A lot of the stuff I have come across in cases actually gets into the books, even if it's not explicitly named, because there's a lot of ways to reveal information that doesn't violate any sort of confidentiality requirements or any sort of NDA agreements that they make us sign sometimes from the intelligence community. And you can always talk about things if you don't use specifics, and if you don't get into the details and identifiers of the situation. So the answer is, I would say about like 80% of everything that I do actually goes into my books and my presentations as well, because unfortunately we live in a time when the bad guys have revealed so much about what's going on, because they want people to know that they can do these things without anyone being able to stop them and without anyone being able to do anything about it. And so they reveal these things all the time. And it's it's supposed to be very daunting for us to see when they do these. So that's why a lot of the stuff is really revealed openly. And people for the most part, they just don't care, because it's in these areas, especially areas of the paranormal, areas of the exopolitics as well. And they don't really see the subject matters of exopolitics as being threatening to them personally. That's why this stuff is revealed all the time.
So I know you were at the FBI sometime in the 1980s, up until I think the start of the Obama administration, and you left because you felt that the wrong people were now in charge of the FBI, and I guess you wanted to leave at a time when you were proud of your service and before the things got bad. And I think you were very wise to have done that, because certainly the FBI today is not regarded well by many in the patriot community, because it's been weaponized by all of these deep state actors, and Obama, and more recently Biden.
Exactly. And right now, and I tell this because I always have contact with people in the intelligence community, and particularly the FBI and many other segments as well. And I tell them now all the time, the FBI is going to be dispersed. It's going to be dispersed. It's going to be erased. And they sometimes people in the FBI, they laugh at me when I say that, because, and the reason is why, it's because they don't know history. They do not know history. We actually The FBI has been in charge of federal law enforcement since 1908, since 1908. And what most people don't know is that before 1908, from 1860 to about 1905, there was an organization that was in charge of federal law enforcement. It wasn't the U.S. Marshals. It was actually the Pinkerton Detective Agency. They were a private contractor group that was solicited and contracted by the Department of Justice at the time, and to be basically in charge of federal law enforcement. And that started in 1860 with President Lincoln. And they had thousands and thousands of members, the Pinkerton Detective Agency. And they actually went to, as a private contractor, to be in charge of federal law enforcement across the country, and then also to other countries as well. They were a global group, and they were a phenomenal group. There's many writings about them saying how impressive they were. They all had these wonderful plaid suits with these smart bowlers, and their suits were filled with bulges from the latest weapons of the time, which were very advanced weapons. And they were just considered very skillful. Also, they had in the 1800s, they actually had women and minorities that were, talk about way ahead of their time, who were members. They were Pinkerton men, and they were called Pinkerton men. And they were actually, and it was an amazing group. And what happened to them should have been a warning to the FBI, because then in 1900, at the turn of the century, after they had a tremendously successful run being in charge of federal law enforcement throughout the United States, they actually became involved with corruption, where the robber barons of the country, J.P. Morgan, Harriman, and others, basically brought them under their control to do their bidding. And even though they were supposed to be private contractors working for the United States federal government. And what ultimately happened was they became involved in the greatest threat the country saw at that time, which was socialism and unionism, and unions forming. And so they became involved in some major, at the time, the greatest violent acts at the time, which were strike breaking, union workers, both, and in New York City and in Pennsylvania. They became involved in some major riots where they actually killed many workers, many union workers in those cities, because this was the greatest threat to the industrialists at the time. And it became a huge scandal. And many Pinkerton men were also killed in those actions. And as a result of that, the United States Congress, just decided, you know what, the Pinkertons are too corrupt. They are too involved with corruption, and these are many killings that they've been involved in. And they passed the Anti-Pinkerton Act, which basically removed them from federal law enforcement at the time. And that was around 1905. And then shortly after that, a young clerk named J. Edgar Hoover in the Department of Justice, or what was the Department of Justice at that time, he basically he never invented anything. He basically saw everything the Pinkertons did that made them great. And he basically copied it for this new organization in 1908 that he proposed, called the FBI. And he basically did everything that they did. And he copied it and created the FBI at that time. And that's how the FBI took over federal law enforcement in 1908. And it's happened, and it's happening again right now. that's why the FBI is going to be erased at this point as well, just like the Pinkertons were from federal law enforcement at that time.
Well, I was really interested in Robert or Bobby Kennedy Jr. Declaring his candidacy, and during his speech, he actually referred to the CIA. He talked about how his uncle, President Kennedy, was so angry at the FBI and the military when they railroaded him into giving the okay for the Bay of Pigs invasion that just went awry, and just got his administration off to such a poor start that he said, that he wants to smash the CIA into 1,000 pieces.
Yeah.
So it seems that the FBI and the CIA have this kind of track record of arousing the enmity of presidents or the American people for being weaponized or lying or just corruption.
Yeah, who has done more against the American people than the CIA? They should have been abolished long ago, and it's just ridiculous that they still exist at this point, and not only exist but are given the support of the United States government. It's pretty much insane at this point. Anybody who wants to look up Operation Northwoods, that tells you everything that you want to know about the CIA, how they were willing to kill, willing, ready, and able to kill American citizens, American college students, and that they would propose this plan to kill numerous American college students in airplanes and then blame it on the Cubans because they were supposed to get the Cubans at that time. And just this massive plan to kill so many American citizens that it was that incident that influenced JFK towards his 1,000 pieces speech, where he just fired everybody involved with Operation Northwoods. And then he said, I'm going to break the CIA into 1,000 pieces. And for those who are, and as a little aside, I am actually in a movie called 1,000 Pieces, where we discuss all of this, and we discuss the line of corruption that has gone from that moment during Operation Northwoods right up until the present time, where we see it all being fulfilled right now, the maximum corruption that is possible by these three-letter agencies, CIA, FBI, and many, many others that are really working against the American people. And now it's time for these agencies to be completely dispersed, erased, and broken into 1,000 pieces as well.
Yes, I think justice definitely is due, or karma is running up, is going to play its role with these agencies. And so I want to take this interview now into the area of exopolitics. And I know, well, in the 1990s, there was a French Canadian by the name of Serge Monast who wrote a book called Project Bluebeam, and he talked about its different steps. And at that time, of course, you were serving in the FBI. Now, Serge Monast, after he wrote that book, I think it came out in 1995. He wrote that book, and I believe it was a year later, so 1996. He was only in his 40s. He dies from a heart attack. So the obvious question that
right.
I think a lot of people have is, well, was this a natural thing, or was it instituted by the agency? And we know that the CIA does have these heart attack inducing weapons. I mean, that was admitted in the Church Committee hearings in 1976 or 77. So was Serge Monast taken out, and what was it about Project Bluebeam that was so kind of explosive that one of the agencies, likely the CIA, would want to take out this French-Canadian investigative journalist?
Yeah, whenever you have bad actors involved in their interests in something that is going on, like the book that was written by Serge Monast, then you should always assume that they had something to do with it until it's proven otherwise, because their interests in this is just too heavy. It's too heavy and thick to ignore. And yeah, although it looks like since that time, it looks like there's a lot of government documents that have actually admitted the work on Project Bluebeam. I mean, I've heard about many documents from the government that actually talk about it and reveal a lot about Project Bluebeam. I read a thick folder the other day about Project Bluebeam and how important it was for the governments to be able to use this as a method of population control, I guess. And it's really astonishing stuff. And it's one of the reasons why people believe that everything is just either it's holograms or it's real. And one of the things that people don't understand is that Project Bluebeam is going to be used not as a replacement for real actions. It's going to be used the way that Hollywood uses CGI, and it's possible there's going to be involvement from Hollywood in this as well, where they're going to be using holograms in order to do what Hollywood calls sweetening of these false flags. And so, in other words, they can actually have, when we have, for instance, fake alien invasion, where we will have the cabal send all of these tic tacs against a city, against one of our major cities, to actually destroy it and to make it basically to wreak havoc upon one of our cities. Well, they're going to do that, but then they can use Project Bluebeam methods to make these real 10 or 20 tic tacs appear to be 1,000 tic tacs in the sky. And that's what they can do in order to ratchet up the terror factor. Because when you see 10 or 20 of these things, and they're real, they're very much real, they can come and wreak some havoc. But when you see 1,000 of them behind them, it sends up the fear level so much higher. So that's what I really think the role of Project Bluebeam is going to be in these projects when they come forward. And it's going to be really something. Like, for instance, people can see in movies. In movies, what they'll do is they'll do a physical effect where you have 10 soldiers in the front row, but then they'll use CGI or something like Project Bluebeam to create 10,000 soldiers behind them. But the first row of soldiers can still kill you for real. They can do that. And so that's what we have to, that's why people, when they hear Project Bluebeam, they tend to think, oh, then that means it's just going to be a bunch of pretty holograms, and it won't be able to affect us. And that's not true at all. That's not how they're going to be using it. They're going to be using it as an addendum, as a sweetener to situations that are deadly, absolutely deadly. So that's one of the things I want people to realize and to know, because sometimes people relate about this about fake alien invasion, and they screw it all up. I mean, they screw it all up by telling people that when it happens, when false alien invasion, fake alien invasion happens, it's just going to be a bunch of holograms. It'll be, so you don't really have that much to fear. But no, that is not the case at all. So that's what people need to know basically about Project Bluebeam, how important that is.
Yeah, it's a very important distinction that you make there, that this is technology that's going to augment something that is very real, that there will be craft and soldiers or aliens or programmed life forms, whatever you want to talk, whatever you want to phrase it, that are going to be part of some initial wave, but then that's all going to be augmented, as you say, to right. make it look like it's a vast armada as opposed to just a small grouping of real ships that are involved. Now, one of the things that I think distinguished Serge Monast's work on Project Bluebeam and the kind of material you get coming from Carol Rosen and from Stephen Greer. Greer and Rosen, they always talk about the contrived or the fake alien invasion, saying, they're going to kind of try and pull that off and trick us that way. But Monast, he said that was actually just one early stage of Project Bluebeam, that the more advanced stage would actually not be an invasion, but would be a salvation, that you would have like this Christ or Buddha
Yes.
or a Muhammad type figure suddenly being projected in the sky and making people believe that they had been saved. So, so it's like the classic, Hegelian dialectic, the thesis, the antithesis, and the solution. It's just like you have your contrived invasion, then you have like some kind of contrived salvation event, and then you have this new world order where people are worshipping around these new alien saviors. So, do you want to maybe take that up?
Yes, and I was just about to mention that that's actually the more, I don't want to say more important, but the more significant part of Project Bluebeam is that all the government papers I have seen, all the documents I've seen, have always started with this religious project that's going to be coming out of Project Bluebeam, which is they're going to have Christ and Buddha. They're going to be making Christ and Buddha and all the others appear in the sky and start talking to people, because they also have voice-to-skull technology, as we all know, and they will be able to recreate the voices actually speaking to basically every human being on Earth if they want to. And that's how they're going to be able to do this. And however, what I can see is that it's not, again, like the other aspect that we talked about, it's not going to be a standalone project. It's not going to be just Christ saying, it's going to be in connection to something else. It's going to be a sweetener. In other words, it'll be Christ or Buddha or whatever other religious figure actually telling you to do something in conjunction with what? With the alien overlords. Hey, you should listen to the alien overlords. You should do what they say. You should, because they're working with me. That sort of thing is what's going to be said. It's not just going to be, hey, here is Christ in the sky, and and I'm telling you, you have to believe in me and just do what I would want you to do. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be in conjunction with something else that the cabal wants accomplished, so that the appearance of Christ, the appearance of Buddha, will be a sweetener that actually leads people to something else, to listen to the alien overlords, to do what the cabal leaders want them to do. That's what it's going to be connected with, and that's why the whole religious project has to be a sweetener for something else as well. Otherwise, it doesn't accomplish the goals of the cabal type figures that want this stuff done.
Now, I know you've written about this in or one or several of your books. Maybe you can tell us maybe you can tell us when you first started to write about the fake alien invasion.
Yeah, well, the primary reason dimensionals has become incredibly popular, has gone to number one on all the lists, all the Amazon lists again after so many years, and why I am being pursued by mainstream media to do things with them all the time is because of this. It's because the major prophecy that is coming true right now, we see it coming true, is that the world at large wants us to believe that alien visitors are physical, that they're physical just like us. UFOs are physical just like us, and that they can appear on they can appear here and just on the White House lawn, and they can just stay there. Roswell was absolutely true, that we just had some sort of alien vehicle that just crashed by the road and just stayed there, dumped by the side of the road like a human vehicle would. And that's one of the main things that that I disprove in the extra dimensionals. Alien visitors are not physical. They are not physical. They are not like us. Their craft are not physical like us either. I mean, the main thing I prove in extra dimensionals, I started in the FBI, and the first thing they did was hand me a document that was from an FBI agent. And it was what we call the smoking gun. It was just a document from an FBI agent. It's available to everybody. This document is available to everyone on the database of declassified FBI documents because it's so old. It's from 1947. It's because of the age, it can be declassified and put at vault.fbi.gov. Just go to that site. You go there. You press the button that says extraordinary cases. It says something very similar to that. And then you press that button. It opens up UFO cases, animal mutilation cases, extrasensory perception cases. You can open up all those documents, and you can download them for free. And including you can go to UFO Group 1, UFO Documents Group 1. Open that up, go to page 22. And if you get on page 22, you go to this document. I'm trying to see with the light how I can show it. It's a one-page document. It is displayed in my book, The Extra Dimensionals. And it is just a one-page document. It's a report from an FBI agent who happens to be also a scientist at the time. And he wrote a little one-page report to all scientists of the time in 1947, the same time that the Roswell operation was pushed forward. And it was basically a report from his informant. He said his informant was supernormal, which is an old-timey word for paranormal, for extra normal. And it makes it, from context, it makes it look like his informant was an alien visitor as well. And his alien visitor friend gave him several conclusions that he put in this report that I was showing right here. In this report, he gave 8 conclusions that he was told and that he needed to tell the world. And he said, the scientists probably won't believe me because of who they are, because of who my informant is. But I still have to tell you because I have to try. And he says, first of all, he says, alien visitors are not physical. UFOs are not physical. They are from another level of reality, he uses the term locus, another locus, level, dimension of reality. And they can actually come to our level of physicality and appear physical for short periods of time. He says UFOs do not have anyone inside of them. He says they are actually a sort of independent life that actually exists and comes with alien visitors to carry out tasks for them, and that they are not made of metal. Real UFOs are actually made of some kind of plasma type shifting material that can actually convert from metallic appearing to light plasmas. And he says that's what they are. And he says that this stuff about Roswell, about a ship crashing at Roswell, and that was done for other purposes. It was not a real thing that happened. So ever since then, I have been accumulating evidence for people that real UFOs, not UAPs. UAPs are completely man-made. They are man-made. But real UFOs, they are not physical. They can appear to be physical for short periods of time, but they cannot remain physical. Let's put it that way. So if it were possible to crash them, it's not. You can't shoot them down either. You can't. And when you have governments telling you, as has happened in the United States, happened in Russia, I believe happened in China also. You have these governments telling you, "Oh, we just shot down a UFO." No, they did not. No, they did effing not do that, because they weren't real UFOs. They may have been UAPs, which that's a whole nother story, and it's not a pretty story either. So that's how that goes, Michael, and that's how that looks.
That's very interesting. That's kind of a fascinating development on the whole extraterrestrial phenomenon. That, rather than talking about physical beings from our 3D reality, we are talking about these beings from other dimensions who are able to come here, but only for brief periods before they go back. So that is very uh, fascinating. Now, I guess the question some people might have is, well, does it have to be an either or? Can you have a lot of these extraterrestrials that come from other dimensions, but at the same time have extraterrestrials in our kind of like 3D physical space or universe who come here, because they've developed physical craft that use some kind of faster than light technology to get here from, say, Alpha Centauri or Proxima Centauri to our solar system, and kind of like interact with us. So does it have to be mutually exclusive, or can you have both things happening?
I believe it is mutually exclusive, especially because we have so many people pretending that they are developing real UFOs, that these things are alien visitors, and we have these things that are they're man-made. And then the question becomes, but if they're man-made, then what is that? Does that mean they're American? They're Chinese? They're Russian? Or what are they? No, they are controlled, and they are created by a different level of global government that is above the United States, it's above the nations. They're the ones who are creating this sort of stuff, and they control it, and they are the ones who are looking to eventually use all of this stuff, all of these tic tacs, these sort of vehicles that they have created and that they have done. They have very often, I believe, they have used reverse technology from Roswell, which Roswell I believe, was done in order to effect technology transfer, because it was actually done with help from alien visitors, but it was also they actually used their skills to fake the Roswell craft, the bodies that were found in there as well, these alien hybrids that they created. And they did all of this in order to effect technology transfer that they wanted to do, in order to get their agreement that they would be, in exchange for technology, they would be getting all of these human bodies every year that would be disappeared with no investigation by human authorities whatsoever. That's what they wanted. That's what they did at Roswell. And that is because they themselves, the malevolent alien visitors, are not completely physical either. They are not completely physical. So they have to do their workarounds in order to get Roswell done, which they were very interested in doing. And that's why, I do not actually believe that there are any alien visitors in our physical space that are real, that are continuing to be here on a permanent sort of basis. I just don't believe that's real. The ones that do actually come here, I believe they are extra dimensional. They are coming from other levels of dimensions in order to be here to accomplish limited purposes, and to do these things temporarily. That's why they can't just leave behind dead bodies, leave behind dead bodies here because they're not from here and they're not like us as well.
Well, I want to go back to this idea of the alien invasion, the contrived threat that is being prepared. And you've written about that in your the extra dimensionals, and this is something that you've been predicting for some time. And last time we talked, I know we covered this. So I was very interested that very recently you have this paper that was written by Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who is the inaugural head of this newly created All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office that was created in the Pentagon to report to Congress on unidentified aerial phenomena or UFOs. And he co-wrote a paper with Professor Avi Loeb from Harvard University. And I just did an interview with him incidentally. And they both talk about motherships releasing probes. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. I mean, here you have the new head of the Arrow office and this leading Harvard astronomer openly talking about UFOs probably coming from an alien mothership. I mean, that's incredible. So, I mean, is this is this setting up what you've been describing?
Yeah, I believe it is. I believe that was very carefully put together. That individual from Harvard was solicited to put his material into this report that just went all over the world. We just had this Oumuamua, Oumuamua, the Great Scout, this great giant cigar-shaped sort of mothership that I mean you've reported on it for many years as well, and it's a Hawaiian word for scout, and now they just made the announcement that Oumuamua is coming back. It's coming back to Earth, and they just added, and it's going to be releasing probes. At least they conflated this report from this individual that you just had on the show, and they conflated all that and they put it all together into a big ball of wax, and they just threw it out there to all over the world. It was picked up by the global wire. The report was picked up by the global wires, by the AP and Reuters, and it went all over the world. Now, why? Why at this particular time? Well, let me tell you something else. As an investigator, something that's been going on just before this happened. What's been going on is, you know what? It's been that the United States and Canada and where else? And I believe possibly China as well, and Russia as well, have all been announcing that they've been shooting down UFOs. Now, they haven't shown us the evidence. They haven't, shown us, oh, here's the UFO that we shot down. If it was, I mean, logic says that they would be showing pictures. They would be showing, but none of them. They've all been just announcing, yeah, we shot down this UFO. We recovered the materials, and that's it. We're not going to tell you anything else. Well, what a convenient time for this announcement of the giant mothership coming here and releasing probes. What do you think those probes are going to look like? I will take bets that the probes that are going to be released are going to look just like Tic Tacs, that those sort of silver colored vehicles, and sometimes they're oval shaped, sometimes they're cigar shaped. They're in all shapes and sizes. But the only commonality I can really see is that sort of silverish kind of skin that I see on these things. And it's already been said by several very knowledgeable people that these Tic Tacs are actually man-made. They are man-made. They are created, and we've had several U.S. congressmen who have said the same thing, who have said it really looks like these Tic Tacs are man-made. but they appear not to be under the control of the United States or Russia or any nation in particular. And because they're going all over the world. And here's something else that's been going on across our country in congressional subcommittees and even Senate subcommittees as well. We've had congressmen receiving classified briefings that don't stay classified at all because they leak out information from these things. And basically, what's been going on is that the national security structure has been showing the congressmen all these near misses that have been happening all over the country. Near misses, classified by the FAA as whenever one vehicle comes within, like, I think it's like 1,000 feet of another vehicle. And so much so that it really looks like it's being done on purpose for intimidation purposes. Where our airliners are out there, our military pilots are out there, and they'll suddenly have a near miss from one of these TikToks. Well, this has been going on all over the country. And it's been going on in other countries too, where these tic-tac vehicles of all shapes and sizes have been coming right up to our aviation, to our airliners, and coming right up to them and sometimes passing right over them. It looks like an intimidation factor. And all of these congressmen have been receiving these classified briefings, which are not secret. I mean, they're not secret because we're finding out about it. And so this has been going on for a while. At the same time as the United States has been and Russia has been announcing, yeah, we shot these things down. Well, these things are going to be coming back now, apparently, with the Oumuamua Scout giant mothership that is coming back to Earth right now. It's going to be, according to their report, which went all over the world. They're going to be releasing these probes, and what do you think is going to happen with these probes? I suspect, and I want to tell people, there's a very real possibility that these probes are not going to be probing. They're going to come back, and it's going to be labeled as some kind of revenge for us having shot down all of these UFOs in the very recent time that's happened. So we are going to be facing these probes, and I predict it's going to be Tic Tacs, the same kinds of Tic Tacs we've been seeing, and they're going to be coming back, except they're going to have a bigger destructive capacity than what we've seen in the past. They're not just going to be coming up to our airliners and trying to intimidate. They're going to be very possibly shooting them down somehow, because they have not yet displayed their destructive capacity. And I think that's what we're facing right now. And I think that's why this announcement was made about the Oumuamua coming back and the probes that they're going to be releasing here on Earth very shortly.
Well, I know that they've been discussing these Tic Tac sightings and how they're a national security threat since 2017. That's when the New York Times, Politico, and other mainstream newspapers began running stories about these Navy pilot sightings and radar recordings of these Tic Tac shaped craft, and also this kind of circular craft that you just mentioned, that were observing Navy craft or ships or aircraft and interacting with them, going over restricted military facilities. So they've been covering that in the mainstream media since 2017, and of course it's quite ironic because before that, UFOs were considered, and exopolitics was considered tinfoil hat territory. No one would pay attention. Now all of a sudden the New York Times, Politico, and the other major newspapers start reporting on these Tic Tac sightings, and that they are based on Navy pilot sightings and recordings, and all of a sudden UFOs are the hot topic. But they of course rebranded UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. So that's quite quite a development. So it looks like the deep state has been building up towards something involving these probes, these drones, or these small objects. And yeah, I agree with you. I think that many of these objects are man-made drones, that they are produced in places like, I think it's Plant 21 over there in Palmdale, California, right next to what is it, Vandenberg Air Force Base? Oh, sorry, Edwards Air Force Base. Yeah, Edwards Air Force Base. They have Plant 21, and they're manufacturing these craft out of the Skunk Work facilities, and some of the other major corporations are there. And so they've been building these craft for a long time. So now they're deploying them, but in a way that is, as you're saying, that this is clearly a psyop. So certainly on the part of these drones, or many of the drones, there's a psyop that many people can identify with. But the mothership, I mean, is that a real extraterrestrial or extra dimensional craft, or is this also something that's being produced by the deep state or some major corporations?
Well, the Oumuamua has also been subject to rebranding as well, because we've known about the Oumuamua for many years, and it was never explained to us as an alien mothership until now. Now suddenly there's stories saying that the Oumuamua, the giant cigar-shaped meteor, I think it was, or asteroid, it was described as in the past. Now suddenly they're saying, oh, it's very possibly a alien mothership that has probes in it, and that those will be really, that thing in this area. You have to approach it like an investigator that is in an area of complete deception, and you have to ask the really hard questions, like, why was it necessary to, in 2017, as you said, to rebrand this entire area from being about UFOs to now being about UAPs, also, by the way, called UATs, like a T with Tom, like Tom, unknown aerial threats as well. What was the necessity? Why did this entire area have to be taken away from the United States Air Force, where it's always been? Because why? Because it's the United States Air Force, air assets, things that are aerial. And the United States Air Force has always been, and even to the chagrin of the FBI, which has argued against this in the past and said, why do we have the U.S. Air Force? Well, because they're air assets. That's what it's about, aerial. And that's why the area of ufology should be with the United States Air Force. It just makes sense, doesn't it? But no, not anymore. It doesn't. Because why? Because they want the cabal, the powers that be, want to rebrand this entire area. They wanted to take it away from the United States Air Force and put it with the United States Navy. Why? What's the reason why? Well, the United States Navy is in charge of, guess what? They're in charge of secrecy and legal matters also. They're in charge of legal matters for the entire military, and they're also in charge of secrecy for the entire military of the United States. Secrecy also, that's included with one of their major secrecy projects, the development of top secret weapons. And that's what they've been doing in this area. They've been helping to develop these top secret drones. We had no less a genius than Mike Barra of History Channel, who actually came forward, who has actually worked with many aerospace companies, and actually came forward and provided that design that I showed you, Michael, the design of the A-24 drone that he worked on, that looks very similar to the Tic Tacs that we have been seeing. I mean, that's from 20 years ago or more. And yet, if you look at the A-24 drone, it looks extremely similar to these Tic Tacs, where they actually took away the wings that were on the A-24 and they made them foldable back, and it looks just like a Tic Tac. That is a clue. That's a very strong clue about the development of these weapons, these top secret weapons that apparently the United States military had some involvement in, but apparently is no longer in control of them for some reason. So that's the sort of thing that we're facing right now, and that's why they did the rebranding of the Oumuamua Scout ship as well. That now we're being told for sure it's an alien mothership, and that's what we're looking at. We're in the middle of this psyop. This is one of the most massive psyops in American history, and it involves everybody, and it's a slow burn. It's a slow burn. It's been going on for a long time, and it's going to continue to go on for a long time because, as Werner von Braun said, this is going to be their final card. Fake alien invasion is going to be their final card when they have nothing else to play. They have nothing else to work, and there's a lot of moving parts to it. There's a lot, including all these congressmen and senators that want to get in on the gravy train. And how could there be a gravy train with UAPs? How could that be? Well, because it's being pushed forward by the military industrial complex, and they are the ones with the resources that they are now flaunting around. And the military industrial complex, by the way, is not American. It is multinational. It is global, and it is very, very powerful. And they are the ones who are pushing these top secret weapons, these UAPs, and trying to get the fear factor ratcheted upward and upward and upward. And that's a problem right now. That's a problem right now because people are very unimpressed. I think regular people are very unimpressed by these Tic Tac videos and these things that look like they're from the 1950s. And it's not very impressive. They try to make it impressive. So now they're going to have to get into the more destructive part of the operation, where the UAPs are actually going to have to bring down some aircraft. Now, it's the only way. It's the only way they can keep pushing up the fear factor, which is what they need. Long range, that's what they need.
Yeah, well, that's certainly something that's very scary because we know that the deep state does have control over some of these major corporations that do make these advanced aerospace vehicles that have been reverse engineered from captured extraterrestrial craft, like the Roswell crash. I mean, it sounds like you think that was something else, but whether it was a physical extraterrestrial craft, or some people even think it's a time device, from a future human civilization, that there has been some reverse engineering going on, that they've built some of these craft that are operational, that they have been sold and they're being used by the Air Force, by the Navy, and now by the Department of the Space Force, or more correctly, Space Command, because Space Command is actually in charge of the operation of these craft. But the corporations also have their own craft, as does the CIA and the National Reconnaissance Office. So, when you're looking at the United States, the United States is by no means monolithic. I mean, this is the big mistake a lot of people make about the United States and secret space programs. They think, well, the United States has a secret space program. And, well, yes and no. Actually, there are multiple secret space programs. The Navy has one, the Air Force has one, the CIA has one, NASA has one. Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, the industrial, big industrial companies, they have their own space program, and ultimately, the ones that are going to be the most advanced craft, these are going to belong to the corporations that make them, and we don't know what's happening inside these corporations. I mean, they are outside of the purview of congressional investigators, even military investigators, going on inside these corporations. So it's very, very possible, as you say, that reverse is. Jazz, show an image of those. Some of these craft that have been reverse engineered, they can be operationalized secretly, and they can be used for all sorts of purposes. The Black Knight.
Black Knight, there it is.
Yeah, but that's not the one. Go to, yeah, there you go, the TR3B. There we go. So there's the TR3B that's been operational since the late 1980s. The CIA, the Air Force, the Navy, they have their own TR3Bs. You also have the CIA, the NRO, and the various corporations, Lockheed and Northrop Grumman, with their own fleets that are used for testing and development purposes. There's another example. I mean, I think you sent me that one. So you tell me about that, because I haven't seen that one before. You want to tell us about that, John?
That is one of the illustrations that show the A-24. I believe it's the A-24 top secret drone, which was then later developed into basically the Tic Tac that we have seen, that we saw over there off the coast of California in what was it, 2004, when the Nimitz carrier group basically just kind of created a nice safe atmosphere for experimentation with those Tic Tacs, and they allowed them to actually go back and forth on there and do different things where they did the final testing on those Tic Tacs. And yeah, that's what that, and the A-24 top secret drone was eventually adjusted and configured, and it was actually fixed up to look just like the Tic Tacs that were being used today and that are being seen all over the world at this time. And that's what that is. That came to me from the great Mike Barra, who has other illustrations also of other vehicles that look even more similar to the modern Tic Tacs that are being used by this psychological operation that's going forward today.
I know that there have been people who have done some research on these very large dirigibles that have been developed by different companies for the deep state or for the military industrial complex. And some of these dirigibles can be made to look like motherships. So, and they can float for extended periods of times. I think it was David Wilcock that did that, or Michael Schratt that did a presentation on these dirigibles, showing the patents and how these can be suspended for weeks at a time. So that brings me to something you said in the extra dimensionals, where you talk about these city-sized UFO motherships just hovering over cities and just being there for a period of time. And so, yeah, you want to tell us about that? I mean, where did you get that information from, and what do you think's in store for us with these city-sized motherships that may or may not belong to the deep state, that can be deployed as part of this false flag invasion or salvation event?
Yeah, the big power quote from my book, The Extra Dimensionals, is, once the black swans arrive, once we awaken to numerous mile-long shadows cast by these ancient ships hanging over our major cities, soundless, motionless, maddening, it will be too late. And what I mean by that is it'll be too late to educate ourselves. It'll be too late to learn about these areas. It'll be too late. because at that point we're going to be at checkmate. And we see this scenario has been incredibly pre-programmed and developed by Hollywood, by movies and television, and that was their assignment, and they have pre-programmed this into us for so many years, and it will be happening eventually, and that's exactly why we saw the rebranding of the Oumuamua Scout, the asteroid that is coming back to Earth again, because it is looking to be one of those great motherships that we're going to be seeing here very, very shortly. And that is one of the things. Also, the Black Knight. What has always happened with the Black Knight, where the Black Knight has always been shrouded in mystery, and it's always been appearing over our cities and just hanging there, and no communication, no anything from the Black Knight. It's just there, and it will never give us any information. And that's what they are planning to do. They are planning to have these motherships come and be here, and with no communication. That is maddening. It will be maddening for people, because they'll say, why are they just there? Why are they just there? And they're not saying anything. And I believe the reason is because they're not saying anything because I believe they're not in there. They're not in there. There's nobody in there. It's just being used as a way, as part of this Project Bluebeam and other things, to make us believe that they have power over us. That's what I believe, because we've had many benevolent alien visitors, benevolent UFOs that have come here and done good things. They've done good things. Mostly they've come all over the world and shut down nuclear missiles that they knew were going to be used for nefarious purposes. And they've done other similar things as well. And they identify themselves through their actions. But when they come here and they just hang there, and they don't do anything, like the Black Knight has done, like the Oumuamua, I believe, will be doing very shortly as well. That's just an intimidation factor. That's all it is. It's an intimidation factor to, again, ratchet up the fear on the part of the population. And that's what I think we're facing very shortly. And I think all the history and everything else that has gone into this shows us that this is going to be happening very shortly.
Our involvement of positive extraterrestrial groups, because a lot of my sources have been describing these fleets of extraterrestrials, benign positive extraterrestrials from the Galactic Federation of Worlds and other organizations that have played a role in clearing some of the negative races out of our solar system. But ultimately, when it comes to Earth politics, when it comes to us kind of getting rid of the deep state, the former minions of some of these negative extraterrestrial groups, it's up to us. It's not the Galactic Federation can't do anything. If the deep state starts tricking us by using Project Bluebeam technologies, or maybe they use these dirigibles that can float in the sky for weeks or months on end, in the way that you've described, and they're manipulating the general public through the mainstream media, getting all the CNN and the New York Times and NBC and all of the major networks to say, well, look at these visitors, these ships, where are they from, why are they there, and they're ratcheting up the fear factor and lowering our kind of like collective consciousness. I think the Galactics look at us and say, well, they're doing it to themselves. They have to wake up. We can't intervene. This is the prime directive. I mean, the prime directive is absolutely true, as far as I know, that they cannot directly interfere in the normal development of a civilization. If there aren't other negative extraterrestrials interfering. So yeah, so what you're describing to me makes sense. That this could be part of a last ditch, desperate power play by the deep state, using all its resources. And the deep state by no means is defeated. I know there are people saying that the deep state's on the verge of collapse, and I certainly think that they're running out of a lot of resources. But I mean, since the Biden administration has come in, they've been like just raiding the piggy bank, taking out billions and billions to fund all of these deep state operations. So right now they're flush with money, so they got a few tricks up their sleeve that they can still play. So this, what you've described to me, it's very possible.
Yeah, and this is one of their last tricks. And and people have a hard time with it because it's such a long range project, and it's been going on for so long. But they're always adding little pieces to it. Recently, we had a congressman from Tennessee. I'm not recalling his name right now, but he's been going on alternative media all over the place and talking about these. It's probably best I don't say his name because I don't want to get called in front of congressional subcommittees. But he has been talking about how he's been going around to all these subcommittees that are being shown these films of these UAPs supposedly attacking our aviation, because a near miss is considered an attack. It's actually considered an attack when it's done on purpose, as it obviously is. And he's been doing these, and these are national security briefings, because supposedly these UAPs are a terrible threat to our national security. But what he also said is that he said this has been it's been apparent that these UAPs are man-made, that they had involvement from our great aerospace companies, McDonnell Douglas, Raytheon, and because he can see their fingerprints on these UAPs, which were also possibly reverse engineered and use anti-gravity and possibly and reverse engineered from Roswell as well. But he said, but it's also terribly obvious that they may have input from the Pentagon, but it appears that these things are not under the control of any particular nation, not under the control of the United States. They're not under the control of Russia or China. And because they're doing attacks again, near misses are attacks. That's one of the things people don't grasp very well. When a near miss is done on purpose, it is an attack on our aviation. So that's also the viewpoint that these congressional subcommittees have been putting forward with this as well, by doing these national security reviews of these matters. And that's what's been going on. And this congressman has basically said these things are man-made, but they're not by us, and they're not by any particular nation. Well, that leaves who then? That leaves the deep state, Michael, as you just said. They are the ones who have apparently control of these things. And they're also desperate. They are not getting the fear that they needed to get from people. They're just not. And what does that mean? Are they going to give up and go home? No, they're not. They're going to ratchet up the violence from these UAPs, from these Tic Tacs, from these anomalous vehicles, and this is going to happen right now, as Umwama is coming very soon.
Well, one of my sources is active US Army, JP, and he's talked about various missions he's done into outer space. And one of the missions he described going to the moon and he's finding this ancient space art on the moon, a dormant piece of extraterrestrial technology or ancient technology that's been there for many thousands of years. And he described it as in a state of dormancy, but recently activating because of these new fleets of extraterrestrials that arrived there. But he described these massive underground bases on the moon with all of these technologies, something that I think kind of fits into what you have described in your book about these moon bases that have been laying dormant for eons and now are going to be activated, and there's going to be some major consequences for our planet. So you want to kind of walk us through what you wrote about in the extra dimensionals about these ancient moon bases, and where did you get that information?
I got this. Oh, the prophecies that I put in the extra dimensionals was basically just distilled information from all the many years of investigation that have gone on in this area for so long. And it really wasn't, it really didn't crystallize in my mind until I started listening to these long after the prophecies were made in the extra dimensionals, when I started listening to these secret space program witnesses who apparently, I mean, they have seen this prophecy come true. Moon bases, which have lain dormant for eons. I mean, we know the moon bases are there. We can see them through the work of Jose Escamilla and many others, great documentarians that have shown us this stuff, the stuff that NASA would never show us, of course, that NASA actually works against showing us all the time. And the prophecy was basically moon bases, which have been laying dormant for eons, will be energized, brought to life, and opening, and will be opening up all those underground bases on the dark side of the moon that NASA has worked so furiously for the last 50 years to cover up, coming to life and sending numerous machines, vehicles, and biological creatures to Earth as well. And this will create a furor against these agencies that were supposed to monitor space for such things. And it's a strange thing. I've heard from these, and now this is being fulfilled right now, because I have heard. Oh, and a great movie that illustrates this. This has been illustrated in movies for many years, but a great movie that illustrates this as well is this movie Moonfall. That's it, Moonfall. It gives a great illustration of exactly what I just talked about. But it's the secret space program witnesses that actually have been giving testimony that this is happening right now. One of the strange things is that I have heard from them, especially recently, is that they keep seeing and dealing with these machines that deal with them, but they never see the actual alien visitors. And maybe I mean, you know much more about this area than I do, but they only see and deal with the machines. What I would say is the AI that actually is operating on the moon all the time. It's constantly, and I believe they operate the UFOs, the ships, the things that move around up there. Because for some reason I don't see biological alien biological life up there as well, but that's been my experience in seeing the fulfillment of this particular prophecy that's going on right now.
So that's quite remarkable that you put that into your book, The Extra Dimensionals, that kind of scenario, and I can't remember when you published The Extra Dimensionals, but it comes out in this movie Moonfall that I think came out last year, 2022. Right. Moonfall comes out with this scenario that you had predicted decades before. So, I can't remember how many years ago you wrote the Extra Dimensionals, but certainly it shows your accuracy as a good analyst and predictor of events. And maybe, I guess, being an former FBI agent, investigator, you must have good intuition, solid investigative skills. So all those things come together. But yeah, it looks like you did kind of like come up with a scenario that looks like it could well happen now, with the way in which the deep state is kind of like ready to roll out its final cards.
Yeah. And to answer your question further about where specifically, what investigation did this particular prophecy come from? I can tell you one of the ways in which we find out what's really going on in the investigative world is through what's called like a reverse investigation. What you do is you look at what criminal actors are the most active in this area, and what is it that they're the most anxious to cover up. What is it that they're the most? So in this particular area, you just have to look at what NASA is doing, And, I know you're a scientist, so you may feel differently about this, but for me, NASA has always stood for never a straight answer, but now it also stands for not a space agency, because that's not what they do. They do full-time, complete deception, according to the whistleblowers that I've heard from NASA. That's all they do, is just pure deception. And then you just look at what is it that they've been the most anxious to cover up in the last 40 years. Well, of course, one of the things is, of course, the moon landing, that actually occurred, and that all of that. But another thing is they've been covering up the most, and then most consistently, is the moon bases. The structures that we can clearly see on the dark side of the moon. They've covered up, the explanations for why there is always a consistent dark side of the moon. They don't even want us looking on that side. And then it's like, well, why are they so furiously consistent on covering up the moon bases and covering up the structures and all of these things? And well, the answer is it's because something's happening with these moon bases. And the reason is it has to be because they are going to be coming to life. They are going to be producing not biological life, but perhaps mechanical life of some kind, consciousness. That's AI, and that's what you basically do. You just look at the actors that are in a particular area and look at what is it that they work the most consistently on covering up, and then that's where you're going to find out the real activity of what's going to be happening very soon. And that's how you get to that sort of thing as well.
Well, the AI element in all of this is fascinating. I mean, when you had Serge Monast writing his book, Project Bluebeam, back in the 1990s, AI was really in its infancy. But now AI has developed quite a lot, and certainly in the covert programs, I mean, we could have synthetic life forms with general artificial intelligence that would comparable to humans. So that's kind of frightening where that could end up. So with these AIs as that are there on the moon, that could be part of this kind of like staged event that the deep state is planning. I mean, how far do you think that's going to go? I mean, is the AI threat a serious one, or is this again just another threat card that's being played by the deep state to frighten us, lower our consciousness, so that they can manipulate and control us more?
Yeah, it's all of those things, and also they're going to be using AI as well when they do this final last great psychological operation of false alien invasion against the entire Earth. And yeah, they'll be using the AI for other aspects of that as well. And that's why we need to really look to the moon and look to where it is that they're using it, how they use it, so that we can predict how it's going to be used against us eventually. And that's one of the things that we really need to focus on as well, and find out how this is going to be done. before they do what we see happening in that picture right there with the AI that's observing its good work that it accomplished right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite scary. Of course, we have the Terminator movies, that have been around for 20 years. I mean, Hollywood's been putting out this kind of soft disclosure stuff or predictive programming for decades. So, people are ready for something to be played by the deep state. And, again, I think it's important to emphasize that, there are some that say, well, will the Galactic Federation allow this and intervene, or will the White Hats allow this? And I think we have to ask ourselves, what can humans kind of like swallow? I mean, if you look at, I'm amazed. I'm truly amazed. Living in the United States for 27 years now, the United States that I arrived in appeared to be much more sophisticated, much more kind of like aware. People seem to be much more aware, whereas now people are programmed. They're programmed to follow whatever script the major media pushes out there. And if you deviate from the script, you're labeled a promoter of misinformation or hate speech, or you're censored or deplatformed. It's just amazing to see the transition. But the result of all of that is that the deep state can fool a majority of people, smart people, to believe in ridiculous things. And it's amazing to have watched this transition. So you look at the possibility: could the deep state fool the American public or the planetary population by using these Project Bluebeam type technologies with their reverse engineered spacecraft, with these dirigibles, huge dirigibles that could kind of like, in combination with Bluebeam technologies or holographic technologies, appear to be massive motherships just floating over cities, and they could do that and fool the population. And positive extraterrestrials are kind of like watching all of this and thinking, my God, when are they going to wake up? This is all just a big show. And of course, those of us who are speaking the truth, we're being deplatformed, we're being kind of like censored, we're being labeled misinformationists, alien huggers, or whatever the disinfo is. So, yeah, I mean, could it get as bad as what you described? Yeah, certainly. That's a very serious possibility we need to be prepared for. I think you're doing that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, it's all we can do at this point is just try to save lives at this point. Just try to, because when this does come in full effect, when the fake alien invasion does happen all at once, I mean, it's going to be insane. It's going to be crazy, and people are going to panic. They are going to panic. And the deep state has already shown how much power they have over people's minds because of what has happened just in the last year or so, where they actually took all of their assets in the media and in the popular culture, and all of their people, to actually just go on a 180 spin in ufology, and with UAPs, and have actually said, for the first time in human history, now all of the media is going to say, UFOs could be real. They could be real. Alien visitors could be real, as long as they're UAPs. As long as they're UAPs. None of this UFO stuff from a long time ago. Now it's all UAPs. And if we're dealing with UAPs, this stuff could actually, and then they have their agents look up at the sky and say, this could be evidence that we are possibly not alone in the universe. And that's what they say. And they do it very pensively and very seriously. And it's an old CIA mind control phrase that actually says, yeah, now aliens are real because we say so, it's real. But we're not saying explicitly that the aliens are real. We're just kind of suggesting it to you. So yeah, that's the fact that they have been able to do this 180 spin in all of popular culture is it should alert those of us who are investigators to say, why now? Why is this? Why do we suddenly see Fox News and Tucker Carlton uh, uh, suddenly saying to people, yeah, it looks like UFOs aren't real after all? Go figure. And having these agents who used to be in ufology, who now are now working with the UAP psychological operation, and having them come forward and say, yeah, this stuff is real. This stuff is real, and now we need to pay deference to it, so that we will be distracted from real ufology, from reality, which is what you work on, Michael. You work on real disclosure and the real disclosure process that's uh, happening other places, in other places behind the scenes, and it's getting increasingly difficult for, I would imagine, for you to work on that while this entire UAP psychological operation is going on as well. It has to make it much harder.
Well, one of the elements that you describe in the extra dimensionals is the activation of these behemoth-like life forms, and then them becoming active and running rampant. I mean, if you had told me that a few years ago, I would have laughed and said, "No way is that going to happen." But now I have to kind of step back and say, "Yeah, they could do that. Basically unleash Godzilla." I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there you go. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
Godzilla, that part of the Japanese movie scene, or something like from
Yes.
the Book of Revelations, could be
Yeah.
unleashed on humanity
Yes.
as part of this psyop. So tell us about it.
Yeah, and I did later look at that prophecy, and I actually said, I think I got this from the Book of Revelations of the Bible, because anybody, and I've got to read that more carefully. But yeah, it's in the Book of Revelations. It actually does predict that there will be these giant locust creatures as large as horses, that also have tails like scorpions, that will be coming up from the earth, will be coming out of the earth, and will be attacking humans, and will be destroying humans to such an extent that human beings will seek death. They will want to die from these attacks, and they will be unable to die for some reason. It's crazy stuff, but I definitely see that very similar to Godzilla coming out from the earth, and I see that happening very soon as well. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, amazing. So, you know, do you think this is going to happen? I mean, when you say fairly soon, I mean, are we talking the next few months? I mean, how far away are we from all of these kinds of events that you've been predicting for years now actually manifesting? Because it does seem like something pretty big and dark and
Yeah,
sinister is about to be unleashed, that we're going to go from this, we're going to move into something really dangerous very,
yeah,
very soon. So how
yeah.
long do you
Well,
think we have?
I would counter with another quick question, which is, well, how soon will Oumuamua be here? On this last go round, and the probes and the Oumuamua probes that are coming. How soon? I mean, I don't know, but I think it's going to be fairly soon, and I think that could be the kickoff. That could be the kickoff when Oumuamua arrives, and the probes that it will be bringing with it. And that's just one example of a timeline that I think is pretty short. It's pretty short, and it's going to be happening very, very soon. So I think it could be months. It could be just a matter of very short months that we're facing here right now.
Well, I just want to remind the viewers that a year ago, if you had if you were told that very soon the major media is going to start talking about motherships releasing probes, you would have thought that would have been ridiculous. But now it has. So these other kind of like predictions that John has made are very important to look at and prepare yourself for. So, so John, how do people prepare for this kind of these kinds of false flag events, these kinds of sinister developments? So, what's the best way to prepare and deal with that?
The best way to prepare is to go and listen to your presentation that is coming up, I believe, like tomorrow, or the day after you're doing your latest seminar. I think people need to go listen to that. They need to get ready. They need to learn, be educated. They need to read the extra dimensionals. They need to read the truth about alien visitors and UFOs and educate themselves as a method of self-defense. It's just a method of self-defense because these forces are going to be attacking us with deception on scales that have never been seen before. Deception on levels like cosmic levels, like Jesus Christ in the sky levels of deception. 500,000 tic tacs in the sky level of deception. That's what we're going to be coming up against, and so we need to educate ourselves right now. People need to read the extra dimensionals. They need to go and watch Michael Salla. He's doing AMA in his seminar. You can go and ask him anything, and these are the questions you need to ask Michael Salla as well. So this is what people need to do, Michael, and they need to do it fast because time is running out. Time is running out, and it's running out fast.
So where do people go, John, if they want to get in contact with you, find out what books you've written, and if they want to get a copy of the extra dimensionals?
Yeah, they just need to go to johntamabooks.com. I have here my company here left me some info. They can buy any of my books using code FBI20 for 20% off on the extra dimensionals or any book at johntamabooks.com. And also I sell spiritual products, holotech products for people for their, again, self-protection, for their protection and for their assistance in this day and age that we are in. Holotech products using code SALLA50, SALLA50, SALLA 50 for 50% discount on all holotech products. Very important. So people should go there, get that, and keep educating yourself. Keep educating yourself. Keep asking questions, and do that here with Michael also. And when he's giving his seminar in a couple of days, I think it is. That's what people have to do, Michael. Very important, and got to do it now.
Well, I want to thank you, John, for coming back on Exopolitics today, and certainly we will continue our conversation when we see these events start to play out, and we'll have you back and cover in more detail exactly what it is that Deep State is doing. So thank you again, John, and good luck with your research and writing and future events.
Thank you so much, Michael. Great stuff. Good stuff. Thank you again to you and your audience. Good people. Thank you.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.